Hi, I'm Nikki Brown. I had Roux-en-Y surgery about 3.5 weeks ago, and I wanted to kind of make some different videos that might be helpful for people that are considering the surgery or are about ready to have surgery. My recommendations for right before surgery and the things that you'll need right after surgery are pretty easy. They're just to help you maintain your sanity and just be organized so you know what you want and when you need it, and you have everything already ready for you so you don't have to worry about getting to the store. I am reading off of a notebook, so excuse me looking down and all that, but the first thing I recommend is definitely take pictures of yourself before your surgery. If you've already had your surgery, I mean, go ahead and just start now. But what I've done is I take a picture of me every month. I'll take a picture of me facing forward, to the right, to the left, and to the back. I'm always wearing the same outfit because I want to see how loose it is. I've also taken pictures of me naked just for my own personal collection because I want to see how my body is changing under the clothes. So you might want to do that. Just don't, print them off, or maybe print them off and keep them somewhere separate. But make sure that you, are taking pictures, because you're going to want to see, where you are and where you're headed, or you want to see where you've been. The next thing I do recommend is if you have a spouse that might not cook. What I did was, when I had started my OptiFast, I knew that my husband was going to starve to death because I wasn't going to be cooking for him if I wasn't going to be able to eat it. So what I had done is I had doubled a lot of recipes and froze them. So I had made things like, chicken and noodles, chicken noodle soup. I had made things like different pastas. I made taco meat and sloppy joe meat and all different kinds of soups. So, I do recommend maybe cooking in advance for them for, at least during the time that you're on your liquid diet, and then maybe, for a few weeks after your surgery, because you're not really going to feel like doing much of anything. What I do also recommend is maybe the week before surgery, going to the grocery store and buying the food that you will need the first 2 weeks after, or first few weeks after your surgery. For me, that food, that first week I was going to be on the liquids, the clear liquids, so I knew that I needed to get sugar-free Jell-O, sugar-free broth, and like tea, decaffeinated tea, and that was pretty much all I was allowed. During that first week, they wanted me to get at least 64 fluid ounces in me. They weren't really concerned about me eating. They just wanted to make sure I hadn't dehydrated. After that, I was allowed to have, there was 2 weeks that I was supposed to be on full liquids, which are things like sugar-free pudding, different protein shakes, Greek yogurt, those kind of things. Things that are low in sugar, high in protein. And what had happened with me personally was my stomach doesn't really tolerate dairy very well, so they kind of advanced me to the pureed foods a little bit quickly, or a little quicker than they would most people. So I was able to start, my full liquids, which were things that I would puree in my magic bullet, that are like maybe tuna fish. I could add a little light mayonnaise or light salad dressing into it, and I could have that. I added things like some pickles in my tuna salad, and I blended them, of course, and then I also added some onion powder. So keep that in mind, that you will be able to slowly start adding things to your meal plan. I was able to add like a scrambled egg, like I could have that with maybe some cheese in it. Another thing that I was kind of going for was I'm allowed to eat about a half a cup of food at a time. So what I did was I made a little less than a half a cup of chicken broth. I added some mashed potato flakes, just the the kind that you buy off the shelf that you don't have to make homemade. I mixed those together and I put a little bit of like sprinkled cheese on it, and that was pretty good. I mean, when you haven't had food in like 6 weeks, you're pretty hungry for something else. I did that. Make sure that you also call your surgeon or talk to your surgeon maybe a couple weeks before surgery and ask them what vitamins you'll need up front. I know that Rite Aid and CVS and GNC, all those places, they offer, you know, vitamins sometimes on sale, like buy one, get one free. What I had done was I called my surgeon and I asked which vitamins I'd be on, and he told me, and he left out the part that they were all supposed to be chewable so you can, you know, swallow them. So I wound up buying all of my vitamins that were like the swallow kind. But what I wound up doing was just taking a pill crusher, and I would crush them, and then I could, you know, swallow them like that. So that's what I did. The other things that you'll really need is, or the things that I found handy was, my husband and I went out and bought a recliner because I knew I wasn't going to be able to sleep in bed. Maybe getting a pill case to organize your pills so you know what you're going to be taking morning, noon, and night. Sippy cups because it limits your air intake, and it also limits how much you're putting into you at a time. Get a lot of movies because chances are you're going to be really sleepy for the first couple of weeks, so you can constantly be watching a different movie, or, you know, the person that's with you, they're going to be bored to tears, so, you know, make sure you get some movies that they'll like as well. I also recommend getting skim milk or fat-free milk, getting a Magic Bullet. What I also found was the EAS Carb Control. It's got about 17 grams of protein in it, and it's about 11 ounces, I think. I was able to do that when I was on the full liquid, so it was easier for me to get the protein in. Getting a food scale, I think, is important. Getting tuna, the little canned tunas, Gas X strips, and chapstick. I also think that you should have Vitamin Water Zero. They were a little too sweet for me, so I had a really hard time getting that down. Getting Greek yogurt, tissues, light mayonnaise, have a shaker jar, so that way you can, you know, shake up your liquids if you're making protein shakes or anything like that. But I recommend getting one with a blender ball in it. I know that GNC has them for like $9.99 each that have a little ball that's like a blender or like a mixer thing on it. So I do recommend that. Sometimes they have sales. It's buy one, get one free, or they're 50% off. So I do recommend something like that. And I also recommend maybe researching and finding if there's a support group offered in your community. I really have a hard time, and I've mentioned it before, I think, meeting with a bunch of strangers, but I did find one that is about 5 people, and it's a little bit easier to open up to 5 than it is to find, you know, 45. So find a support group for you. It's a little bit easier. Another thing I recommend is a couple of books. The first one is called Women, Food, and God. That one I think is a really good book. It kind of tells you scripture-based things, different verses, and, you know, things to help you stay positive and keep going. Another book I recommend is something called Gastric Bypass or Weight Loss Surgery, Healthy Eating Habits Before and After Weight Loss Surgery, or something like that. I'll have to find that book exactly because I can't remember what it's called, but I did really, really like that book a whole lot. So anyway, that's kind of what I recommend, at least that I kind of wanted to talk about for right now. My next video will kind of be about what to expect the day of surgery and then getting out of the hospital up until that point. So anyway, I appreciate your listening. Have a good one.